Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chaos Dubs. Today, we're diving into one of the final and long-awaited Reaper Hardslot token interviews remaining incomplete. This multi-chain token has been around since October 2021 and is well known on the XRPL for its token airdrops and recognizable mascot. Branching out from XRPL to Algorand, XDC, Ethereum, and more, this asset offers arbitrage opportunities, a large and friendly community, open NFT lines, education, and of course, memes and NFTs. This is XOGE. Today, we have the opportunity to speak with the CEO behind the dog, Classy XOGE. Thanks for joining the show for this interview. How you doing today, Classy?
Fantastic. Wonderful intro. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm stoked to have you. It's a pleasure. You guys are a really popular XRPL project rooted in the meme coin sphere with offerings that go well beyond just fun. From arbitrage opportunities to multi-chain support, multiple tokens and exchange listings, and a large friendly community, you guys have a lot going on. So for the viewers just joining the ecosystem, please give us a rundown of what XOGE is, what it does, and how it all started.
Right. So I decided after getting rugged a few times myself and just crypto, right? Like I bought some safe and some other things, and I'm not here to say anything negative about any assets, but it's a tough space out there. So I wanted something that I could believe in, I could trust. So starting out with, free deployments, airdrops, and then moving into clones after that, giving everybody a fair shake at it, and then letting it be decentralized and get out there for everybody fairly.
And so are you developing this yourself or do you have a team behind you?
Right. So originally XOGE was founded with an LLC, and that I had a person working on it with me. And then as we got closer to, the completion of the ecosystem, decentralizing and things like that, he dropped off. I dropped the LLC. The tokens were fully deployed. And at that point, we didn't need any of that because there's no centralized entity. And as far as team, anybody can build NFTs with XOGE. Anybody can use the mascot, use the trademark stuff. There's no legally binding stuff. It's as open as a real good company would be, as far as if it were a company. As for, like, if you think about Tesla, the way that they do it, it's all open source. It's because it makes it better. Like somebody being able to grab it and build on it makes it better. So if you were just running around with Nike logos, Nike would get mad, but in all actuality, they should get stoked because you're cool and then you're promoting their product for them. So that's how I approach the problem of, advertising, marketing, and things like that. Don't take it from the asset. Let people be free. Let people kick ass with it and make it good. They benefit, the product benefits, and there isn't an overhead. So just no cost with XOGE. There is no cost as
That's
far as
awesome.
like staffing. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think we'll probably touch a little more on the expansion and the marketing ideas a little bit later, but we touch on the exchange listings. So what exchanges is XOGE available on? Where can people go to get some XOGE other than through Reaper Financial?
Right. So obviously, any ones that have a decentralized DEX or decentralized exchange native in it, like XRP, any ones like that, obviously they're in there. So you could get it through Solo, which links into that and stuff like that. But on all of the other chains, the website will link you to liquidity pools and swap sites for the tokens. So in most of the larger crypto ecosystem, even like Algorand, where they don't have a DEX, they're all using swap sites and liquidity pools, which in my opinion are way better than centralized exchanges because you don't bind your asset into that. Like if you're working with KuCoin, you send them the tokens. That's all well and good if you're in and out and you don't keep your assets on those, because we've all seen them shut down for 48 hours and then go bankrupt and take people's assets. So
Not only
we,
that, one
yeah,
like often when prices are moving and people are trying to get their money in and out, and you're like, "Oh, now's the time I need to trade." They're like, "No, we're locking off all trading," and you're like, "What? Come on, man!" You know?
right. No, they can tie your hands in 1,001 different ways, from you withdrew too much, or we just don't have it right now, so we're going to put a freeze on it, things like that. So we prefer with all of our assets to stick with dexes, and liquidity pools and swap sites that are instant, non-custodial. All the XOGE, every one of them is held by real people all the time. And what we sponsor through that allows people to just build liquidity pools, add to that, and actually passively profit off of other people trading in the ecosystem. So it's just a win-win. Instead of the centralized exchange who can steal your tokens making the money from people swapping, it's real people in the XOGE ecosystem who provide LP for it. So it works out way better as far as a profit model for the whole ecosystem.
That's awesome. Okay, so say someone's new to the ecosystem and now they bought some XOGE. Where can they hold the XOGE? Where do you recommend the best place to hold it is?
Right. So depending on the blockchain, but for every single chain, we have on the website a link to the recommended wallet for it. A lot of them, about half of them, are MetaMask bound because they're all 0x or in that spectrum. Even XDC, you can store it in your MetaMask, but we have Zum up there for XRP. We have Algo up there for Algo. We have Hashpack for the H bars. So we got the top tier premier wallets for every single chain already selected, linked on the website, how to add those assets and things like that.
Fantastic, fantastic. And do you want to just maybe plug that website real quick? There's going to be a link in the description for it, everybody, but go ahead and tell us what the website is, please.
Yeah, it's xogehome.com or xogehome.net. Furthermore, we do have our community built because, like I said, XOGE is an open platform. So aside from people creating NFTs and profiting from them by just making their own art, but XOGE related, and we have somebody who's created XOGE Monocle, which is an XRPL scanning tool. So that can be found. We have links to it through the website. And then also we have altpeer.com. Oscar XOGE built that. He funded it himself. And it not only airdrops to multiple different chains currently, it's the first airdropping or multi-chain airdropping tool made. And he's now adding other ones like in Stellar. He's got Dick Inyo and going into HBAR, I believe. So that's just more and more rolling out. But eventually it'll have, 8 to 10 different airdrops going on all the different chains because all of the assets for XOGE that weren't deployed via clones to people by the forms that they filled out were dedicated to alt-peer airdrop passive reward staking. Essentially, it's soft staking. There's no nobody's holding your assets ever in this ecosystem except for you. But if you put your wallet address into the website at altpeer.com on the various chains, they'll just send you tokens based on how many of the block scan reads for your wallet address. So and then in Algorand we have that as well, except for it is done through the Algo faucet. But yeah, it's still going.
Super, super. And I mean, we've kind of just touched on this, but I really want to drive it home. So who holds and owns the XOGE available on the exchanges for purchase?
That would always be on every exchange, be it a decentralized exchange where people are posting buys and sells, or if it's on in the LP. If you provide LP, liquidity pools are freaking cool. I'm so excited because they're coming to the XRPL, and I was replying to David Schwartz on his tweet about it, but it's fantastic. Basically, you match the pair. Let's say you put up $100 worth of XRP and $100 worth of XOGE. You now have a liquidity pool. It's worth $200, but you have money essentially on both sides. It's a few clicks to set these things up, and then as people are trading, whatever they want to do, they want XRP or they want XOGE, you're in the middle facilitating that trade so that it can go through instantly, as opposed to waiting like a DEX for limit orders and things like that. But you get a percentage of a trade fee. So middlemaning is profitable for people.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of us in this ecosystem apparently are familiar with the Flare Finance, and many of us even got a little glimpse into their beta, which was so long ago that you hardly even remember it these days. But we talked a little bit about airdrops there. So Patrick's really bringing the community together with all the Hardslot tokens and airdrops, and a Hardslot is a pretty good place to be sitting in these times before a bull market. So let's discuss how XOGE came to be a Reaper Hardslot. What can you tell us?
Well, from the very beginning, when Reaper Finance started up, Patrick messaged me. We started working together. Gave him some advice on, just general mistakes that I had made as far as like in the beginning, airdropping to everybody who made a trust line, period. Right. But at that time, the ecosystem was pretty full of automated bots and stuff like that. We've cleaned up a lot of that through strategy engine and all of us as a community reporting these clusters of bots and things like that. But it proceeded on. We became more and more friends. We worked in Block, which is Blockchain Leadership Oversight Council. He's the chairman for that, and I'm vice chair. And we set up a constitution. We spent practically an entire year building to make the ecosystem, the whole XRPL better. But it wasn't just for XRPL. It's cross-chain. It's for all of the ecosystems, and that's part of what XOGE does. Is as we grow or get bigger out there, being able to kind of bring people from all of crypto together. It's like, trust me, it isn't a fight of Ripple versus the SEC. It isn't a fight of this group or this crypto against big banks. It's literally a fight against people's freedom of finances, against everything established that has the current financial power, the current financial paradigm.
It's essentially a financial revolution for sure. It's the old guys in the States. Well, I mean, he's got a young guy, but generally politicians are older people, and they're stuck in the past. They don't want to adopt new ideas. They don't want to change. So, I mean, you're seeing a lot of that, I think, these days, and it's kind of like not smart. You see these other, what people would call third world countries adopting this stuff, and they're taking it in. They're fresh. They want a different perspective. They want a different opportunity, and they see the potential. So let's change. Do you want to add something to that, I should say?
Actually, you said it so well. I mean, I could have thrown something in, but I'm going to continue. Let's get on with what you had in mind.
Thanks. All right. So let's change pace a little bit. We kind of touched on a lot of this stuff earlier, but let's unpack some of the stuff. So one of the biggest things about XOGE is the memes and the fun. There's a section on your site where anyone can go to grab some free memes and edit and use them at their leisure. And you'd mentioned that. So what inspired you to do this? And what are the future plans regarding the memes? Are you coming out with more memes, or, can anyone put community-made memes up there, or what are your plans?
So usually with memes, it's more of like a situational thing. Somebody gets an idea to throw two things together. So what we have, when we think about a meme and a picture being worth 1,000 words, this is like, a meme is essentially the next evolution or generation of compressing or zipping information. And with that single image and messing with it, you can really just drop a motherload of value and volume of information. So I let all of the memes, everything like that, because I'm not some meme master or anything. I let all of the community do that. They make them, and I have fun with it. But what I like is that just anybody can do it, and I've got the baseline up on the website, but a lot of people are doing their own art, and it's interesting to see what people come up with.
That's awesome. The more that we talk, the more I realize it's all about the community, and I really like to see that. I mean, a lot of these smaller, because I mean, XRPL is tiny compared to the larger crypto sphere. A lot of these projects are small, and it's all about the community, and then something big's going to happen. Have you noticed the memes been shared or used by any notable personalities or accounts?
We've had a few run-ins with some decent, some decent names out there. One time it was pretty cool when Elon tweeted how he was going to get a monocle on top hat. So we trolled and said, "Oh yeah, he's definitely talking about XOGE." It probably wasn't. However, it was still fun because everybody wants to get Elon's attention. Twitter's pretty wild, I mean, things can seem pretty passive and nothing's happening for a month or two, and then one day the right set of circumstances just causes things to get really crazy really fast. So I'm always optimistic about XOGE and what it is as a speculation based market with no overhead. And I tweeted out to people a lot. I said, for a company like Apple to bring in, say, $1 billion in revenue, they're spending hundreds of millions on R&D, building, staffing, they're selling stuff, and that's also, they can bring in a 5% over their cost. And if they mess up on innovation and things like that, they don't even get to that, right? So it's incredibly hard for like a legacy asset in a traditional stock market to really move. And we're not talking about how do you make $500 or $1,000. So we're talking about how do you make a percent move. If you have $1,000 in there and you get a 5% move, you have a static variable as far as how much profit you get. So it really all comes down to the percentage that an asset can move, right? So if an asset moves 5% over a year, that's traditional finance. If it moves, 20 to 50%, 100%, that's fire. And that's where people can really make some crazy things happen if they're intuitive, they get lucky and stuff like that. You can't get that in traditional finance. A speculation market like XOGE with no overhead, no employee cost, and the tokens are all out there for people, that's a place where those kinds of crazy things can happen. And I hope the best for everybody. Now, at the same time, and I always tell everybody, look, man, if it can move up 100 or 1,000%, it can move down 100 or 1,000%. You always play with the money that you can literally sit there and say, I don't care about that. I can wait it out for 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, because it's not essential to my well-being. And if you're doing that, you'll be able to do then what wealthy people are, which is the reason that wealthy people always win on their investments, because they don't need them. They don't need to pull it out. They don't need to, like Warren Buffett, he goes and buys a company, it's a shithole, and he says, well, I'm just going to hang on to it forever. And eventually it turns around or it makes it. They can stay with something that isn't working out for much longer than the average person. And that's a huge advantage, because as we've seen with so many assets, if you could hang around, you can ride those larger timeline waves and then end up on top.
It looks like we got one of those waves just beneath us at the moment. Something's happening. We got the Litecoin halving happening in 100 days, and I think Bitcoin halving is happening next year. So things are pretty exciting. Do you guys have upcoming partnerships, or have you been mentioned anywhere major?
We have had a couple articles written by different people. As far as partnerships go, we're always partnering with other projects, other entities on the various chains, because we're promoting every ecosystem now. It's not just about one being the superior bee's knees end all. For all we know, the one that nobody expects may be the one that takes off, and it's just the way that this stuff can work out. So yeah, as far as like big time business partners or anything, no. This is like XOGE is not and I don't want to be grandiose with it and say anything that's not true. XOGE is not some global massive entity or anything. This is an infant project, and the tokens are all held by real people out there in the market. I don't think that there's anybody who has more than like 8% total on any of the chains. And I myself, I don't have the most. I have 5% of the various chains, and I got my clones, like everybody else. And it's pretty cool to know that I've deployed it and bought it. So I gave it out for free, and I've bought it, and I still don't have more than some other people. But somebody had to facilitate the role. Like, that job has to be done, and it's got to be somebody who's going to be serious about ensuring that it gets done. If you can't do it with an honest entity, one person, to really see that through, you have to do a mining-based system, because then it's ensured that it's safe, right? But the problem with that is that the mining just continues and continues and continues, which makes it an inflationary asset instead of a deflationary asset. So something like Dogecoin is forever minting, right? They're still mining, they're still minting. That's always going to be taking from that ecosystem.
Absolutely. So aside from getting on lots of chains and partnering with people, what other plans do you have to get the word about XOGE out to the masses? Conference, events, anything like that?
Yeah, I was looking at Ripple Vegas, just going for the sake of it. I have a lot of friends in the community who are currently going. Unfortunately, this year and how much heads up I had on it, it's not going to be a thing. It's just a few months away now. Um, but I know Jenna's going there, Patrick's going there. It's going to be super cool. A lot of people that I want to bump into. I might move to Texas in the future. Not sure, but if I do, then I'll probably move pretty close to where Patrick's at, and we'll see what happens with opportunities there. Got a lot of people that I know through crypto, but I just don't like XOGE is primarily at this point after I said, okay, I'm part of the community and I did my role. I and I don't have the power nor the assets, and I burned the main wallets. I destroyed the shield folio that had them, so there's no chance of like I guess when I decentralized, I explained to the community as clearly as I could, without being morbid, that even if somebody or some government got me and was trying to force me to do something with it, I can't. I literally don't have it. And for me, that was really important because they had like, I think 6 or so crypto releasers, creators end up being mysteriously offed. And there's just been a lot of shady stuff with that. And then also, governments causing people to do stuff. So, um, I just wanted to make sure that the people who had it and held it never had a threat of like a master account just going and printing and then dumping and stuff like that. Like none of it. So that's what I ended up doing
Solid.
to close it out.
Solid. So, XRPL users familiar with Sologenic, they have likely caught a glimpse of some of the XOGE NFTs available on the platform, but they aren't just your everyday NFTs, are they? Can you explain a bit about the NFTs, what they do, what the rarity structure is, and what utility that they bring to holders?
Right. So the whole NFT line for XRPL was like a project from the when we had the LLC, and the partner I was working with who came aboard after I started it, Ceaseless, he masterminded it. Basically, it's a card game. Anybody can play it. It was played through Discord. There was talks about building an app for it. I think that he might still do that. Even though XOGE is decentralized, has no LLC, there are so many, like Mark XOGE, Oscar XOGE, Phoenix XOGE, XOGE Princess, myself, Ceaseless, and the list goes on of just people who utilize XOGE in various ways to work on it or make things better. Like my last thing that I did with it was the AI stories. I think I spent like 2 months on those, which is about 1,000 pages worth of the history of XOGE, all the different clones, but it's done in a space theme way. And I used Chat GPT, and then for the AI, because we worked on it all together. Like I said, it was a fairly long thing, but that's linked through the website. And been doing AI stuff with Patrick as well with the Reaper project, because we know that AI is going to be a big factor, but the community at large is the primary builders. And as far as that card game goes, Ceaseless, like I said, he was the one who championed that, and he's still, as far as I know, he's still working. Like he's still doing stuff. Like Mark XOGE, he runs NFTs, and so does Phoenix XOGE on different chains, and they're still doing stuff with that, like getting various passive rewards or staking and stuff like that. So there's always something going on, because literally anybody can do anything with XOGE, because it's not owned or controlled by anybody. And what I'm hoping is that because it's so open and available, that people they'll have the ability to make profit engines off of it. And a good example is Oscar made AltPeer, right? So he's paid to make AltPeer. The community didn't have to pay for that. Oscar did, but it has a profit model in that it binds with other projects and is able to airdrop their tokens, and then it gets profit from them. Whereas XOGE is just grandfathered in for free. but it doesn't cost the community anything. But we get a utility out of it, is we get this multi-chain amazing airdropping tool, and then he has a functional, profitable business off of building with that, with the XOGE ecosystem. So people do NFTs or different things like that. I believe Phoenix is working on like a kart game or a runner game. And, yeah, so just different things people are doing.
It sounds like you guys all, if you're not involved with XOGE, you need to get in. And I keep saying it wrong on purpose so people don't get confused. Like that's why I did it in the intro. I just wanted to be sure people weren't like Doge, you know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So let's we've already touched, like I said, on a lot of stuff, but I want to unpack this a bit more. So the multi-chain support and the opportunities you have ongoing for holders of XOGE regarding the token clonings. First of all, what chains aside from the XRPL, like totally does XOGE currently live on? So give us a full rundown. And what chains do you plan to expand to in the future, please?
Right. So let me pull up the website and I will go through that real quick because it's such a mouthful.
Yeah, and we can edit out little
Yeah,
gaps
yeah.
and stuff here and there.
So we're on Harmony 1, we're on Kava, Velos, Ethereum, Phantom, Polygon, IOTA. And for IOTA, you got to know, if you know the IOTA ecosystem, there's IOTA, there's Assembly, and then there's Shimmer. The Shimmer network is the token deploy network. Same high quality ISO 222 baseline technology standards for like super fast next to free transactions and all that. Shimmer is really cool, but it is IOTA's main company. It's their chain for tokens. So there's the Shimmer XOGE under IOTA, and then Avalanche, Cardano, XDC, Binance, Hedera, Stellar, Algorand, and XRP. And as far as expanding further, I always told everybody I was going to set a goal on how many I would do, but thereafter I wasn't going to do anymore. I'll still run websites, I'll still do interviews, I'll still promote the product, I'll still work hard on it, and of course I'm not paid, and none of it's paid. I do it because I like what I built, I like the community, and then if there are to be other clones, just like anything else in XOGE, somebody in the community can do that. Like quite literally anybody can do what I did. I built the system to make it possible as far as like how one would go about doing this, and I laid that out in the documentation as well. So other people can do that, and if they're trusted enough by the community, it could be seen as a legitimate XOGE. And if enough people actually hold it, I'll even add it to my own website. But my website, xogehome.net, is mine, and there could be 10 or 1,000 different XOGE websites in the future, all having all the chains and being up there. So it's all open to everybody.
Very cool. So the website says that users can clone their XOGE to other chains, and you will personally snapshot and deliver the tokens on the new chain to the users. And I actually haven't taken advantage of this myself, so I got to get my ass in gear for this. But it sounds like you have a system down pat, but I'm sure some folks are still wondering how it all works. Is it safe? Do I keep my assets on the XRPL or do they migrate? Is it a difficult process to accomplish? So maybe please run us through this a little bit and unpack it for us.
Right. So for close to a year is when we were doing the clonings. Unfortunately, the part that I was doing for that, I facilitated the role of using block explorers, checking the balances for everybody's address, verifying the addresses, getting their new addresses, and transferring it. I literally was the bridge between the different chains. And it wasn't like a C chain or an EVM or a swap where you lose your assets on one chain and gain them on another one. It was a straight balance transfer based on the tokens that were minted on that other chain, and then people verified that they owned those wallets, both sides, through transactions that I monitored. Like I'd make them send a test transaction on both sides and confirm with memos and things like that the actual proof of ownership was completed. Then they were sent the tokens. So about every months on end, like all of my free time just researching, doing a whole bunch of explorer work, collecting all the data from people, deploying tokens, cloning over people's values. I worked basically over close to a year and a few months, just nonstop on all of this to get it out to people in a fair and free way, so that the tokens were fairly distributed, which is really important. They didn't have to be mined, so they didn't damage the environment, and that everybody had a fair shake at it. And now that I've completed that part, the cloning is done, right? These are all independent assets on the different chains. Now, some people, they see an opportunity, one is low, they might choose to buy some of those or sell some of the other ones. So people are trading them at all however they see fit. But what's really awesome is that it all started from the XRPL, then to Algorand, from Algorand into Stellar, into HBAR, into all these other assets. But there was never any financial ties to this. So the tokens all have a value. And the charts don't look great, but we got to remember the fundamental of this. Each one of those charts did not have a value. Those tokens were all minted and given to people for free, completely didn't pay for them. And then trading started, and some people chose to sell and some people chose to buy. And the value is whatever it is. But I will tell everybody this, that if you start out with something that has absolutely no value that you create out of thin air, and if it has any value at all, any value, it's an infinite increase in value because no money went into it, right? Yeah. Initially. So for people who held XOGE assets and got their clones, and a lot of these chains are doing fairly well. Standard like with other meme coins and competitions in the space. It's just that they came from all of the zero value. And people have, and in time I expect more to be lost, more to be burnt, and since there is no inflationary mechanism, so all of this is all deflationary. In time, even more will be destroyed, and they can't be recovered. So it's estimated in blockchain between 4 and 7% roughly annually is lost from master token supplies for all the chains and different assets. So if you figure without the ability to mine or mint and create more, this is why if you look at the cycle, the timeline for like Dogecoin, it's close to a 10-year before actual hard hitting activity. Well, how many cycles of 5 to 7% do you have to proceed until you've stacked up to where you've destroyed enough of the supply that people are like, oh wow, it's worth a lot of money now, because there actually isn't as much as we thought. So that's where we are. I think that a lot of people, they misunderstand the value of things like this, and then time goes by and it's just kind of chilling and not doing anything. And then one day somebody goes and throws a few $1,000s at it. The chart breaks, but there's nobody to sell any, so it just keeps then breaking thereafter. And yeah, it's like they snowball.
Crazy. So am I to understand that cloning is no longer being offered?
Cloning will always be offered. The only difference is that I don't offer cloning. Because
okay.
Like everything in the XOGE ecosystem, it's all decentralized. Anybody can technically do the work. It's just that I don't want to. So whenever I did the deploy for America and the legalities of everything, I was under the umbrella of a LLC in Washington State that I had filed and created. So everything was proper. But after 1 year of doing that and doing the clones, it was like the game plan was to decentralize. So anybody can create it, but I will say that anybody who is cloning XOGE to another chain is more than likely going to need to be well respected or known in the XOGE community, because then they just won't accept it. They won't do the forms. They won't trust that you're going to do everything right, kind of a thing. But what is cool about cloning is that typically when you send somebody tokens, in many places in the world, there's some kind of tax liability. With cloning, there isn't one, just so people know you receive it and it has a zero value. It has no value. because everybody gets the clone at the same time, and the tokens weren't ever sold or traded in market. So there isn't a value when you receive them. And that's what the tax is based on. And it isn't until people start trading it later, but you already own it at that point. So for harvestable income or tax requirement on one's income, there isn't one, because you got something that was worth nothing and then it started to gain value.
To touch on the tax requirement, folks, if you don't know, taking a loan out is not a taxable event. So there's one really good way to off ramp your crypto is take out a crypto loan, which is not taxable, and then take that out into cash. You just have to repay the loan, of course. But touching on the fact that you're doing all these swaps, what type of fees are you incurring? Is it mostly free to you? Is it making a dent in your wallet? Because users don't pay anything, right? So in doing the swaps manually, were you incurring any fees to yourself? Or there is no fees to do so?
No. There's certainly fees. It's the same as any blockchain transaction. If you're going to send a token on Ethereum, let's say the Ethereum current network fee is a $1.75 to send Ethereum to someone. You can times that by 2, and that's what it would be to send the tokenized asset over Ethereum. So be it a Shiba Inu or a XOGE, right? On these different chains, like all of the really good cheap assets, HBAR, Algorand, XRP, all of those, there was never any cost, really, no problem whatsoever, because it's so cheap, it's so efficient. But when we went to Ethereum, yeah, that was hard. And the community, they're XOGEs, like they're super cool. Everybody sent in a small portion for about what it would cost to do their transaction, and then there was a couple $100 extra that needed to be thrown in, and I took care of that, and we got through it. And it was the most expensive one for sure. I think it cost, it cost a fair bit. It's hundreds of dollars, but yeah, but we got through it. Just people working together. A lot of them covered their own, and then I shot for the top 100 plus anybody who would cover their own. So the top 100 essentially are what I just said I'm doing, guaranteed. That's what I'm paying for. But then everybody beyond that, if you want your clones, you're welcome to it. But I need you to cover transaction fees, because I don't got multiple thousands to cover everybody. It's just too expensive. And I don't have a profit model in XOGE. I just wanted to make a crypto I could enjoy and believe in. But
That's pretty much what I wanted to know there. That's good. Thanks. All right.
Yeah.
So before we move on here, folks, if you're enjoying this, now's the time to show your support and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and kindly share this video with at least one other person so they can be informed about XOGE. And don't forget, check out XOGE on socials. Where can other people find you on social media?
Right. So I've got a Twitter account. I know that the community put together Facebook. We have, like, I don't even run it. We have a Telegram. I'm not the owner of it. We have a Discord. I'm not the owner of it. There are people in the XOGE community who do as much or more than me, who have more clout and are cooler by all regards. I'm just the one who was the founder and the one who was deploying the tokens and trying to make sure everything was right for everybody. And then so we're out there in so many places, but a lot of those places are straight up made by people in the community who have a vested interest in making XOGE expand, making XOGE better, building on it, and hopefully profiting from it, because as it grows, as it expands, they do better. If you have a decentralized asset and you have just a whole bunch of people working on it, they're the beneficiaries, right, of their effort. So yeah.
That's awesome. I've heard from a lot of people that you're a very dedicated to the project kind of guy, and after talking to you, I can totally see that. And you're willing to ensure the project's success, even if it means taking a personal loss. So is it true that you're working on an income deficit for XOGE, I should say? And if so, what keeps you dedicated?
Yeah, because I mean, we've all lost money in crypto, right? Like you try to pick things that you like, that you hope are going to work out. Where most of us are average working people just trying to make it. We know that we can't trust necessarily our traditional finance, our governments, our banks. We can't trust nearly anything anymore. Um, and things get hopeless for people as far as, how am I going to have a retirement? How am I going to have a future? When am I going to get to own a house? When is it my turn in this world? And then you see all these rich people, and it's like they're launching yachts off skyscrapers just for the hell of it, and the LOLs. I'm just like, guys, we're literally struggling to make it here. So a lot of people, they just want to win, they just want to make it, and that's my inspiration for XOGE. And as far as I've bought some and I gave it to different people, and I've bought some and I've directly destroyed it. And my goal with it is to make something that puts people over profits and has the potential to do something more. But nothing in this world is guaranteed. We just put our best efforts into it and hope it works out. But
That's a good outlook, and that actually ties right into what I was going to ask you next. So let's touch on the future outlook for XOGE. In your white paper, it states, "We don't know the future or where XOGE will be in years to come." Patrick's Reaper plan extends into 2035 and probably beyond by now. And I know not every project or leader has plans that far into the future, but I'd like to hear what plans you have into the future, and where do you see XOGE in 2, 5, and 10 years down the line, even if it's just where you see it. It'd be great to gather some insight.
so for me, it's always been, the community and time. It has to grow. You have to start from an honest and true base. But if you can manage to do all of the basic stuff right and get it out there for people to start trading, natural market economics are, an asset wants to go up over time in value for a few reasons. Everybody wants to trade at a benefit, right? So even if we got a bunch of people who got it for free initially and then want to go and sell it as it starts to go up, they'll knock it down, but somebody else purchases it, and over time they'll want to sell it for more than what they got it for. So even starting from a zero, you can still trend upwards. It just takes time. So for me, it's always been like XOGE, like any good meme, like any good asset or speculation market that's fairly done, and most of them so far have been mined. Like there isn't really a fair deploy token that is pre-mined, where you mint all the tokens. There isn't really a fair one, because it's always the ones who are winning are the arms dealers, the ones who create it. Like they're selling it to you, they're paying marketers to sell it to you. They're all harvesting the money, they're all making the money. With Soji, it's always the community. They're always first. They're the ones who are selling it to other people, and from there we go up. But if you build something that's true and honest, you either have to do a mined network, or you have to do something like what Doge did, where it's open to everybody to gain an advantage. And that, I guess, that universal truth, where if something is good and honest and true, it can't be destroyed. It'll always be okay. It's just gonna, with all these memes, it just takes time. So I see XOGE in the 6 to 8 year mark are doing incredibly well. But that's like a father to his kid saying, "Oh yeah, my kid's going to be the superstar athlete." When in all actuality, even if XOGE is just doing modest in the charts or doing okay, it's still a massive success to all the people who, like I said, came into the ecosystem and got it and grew the project and built on it. There's already been a lot of people who've done well off of XOGE, right? And I think as trading occurs in the small percent, 5% of people in crypto becomes more like a 30 to 40, 50%. There's just simply not enough tokens. XOGE originally on the XRPL had 1 quadrillion tokens. So that's 1,000 trillion, right? And now we have about 170 trillion. So we're well over 80% of the initial supply that was created is completely gone. And people don't, in my opinion, realize how rare it actually is. And I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying that. Like a switch is going to flip and XRP XOGE is going to go pretty bonkers, because I would estimate that with already almost 2 years worth of wallet losses, how much was airdropped to accounts that got destroyed off the ledger and still show a balance. If somebody were to, let's just say somebody creative were to use XOGE Monocle and take a actual like a look at how many wallets are inactive and hold the initial airdrops. There's quite a bit of wallets that they don't have access to them. People don't have. So we may show 170 trillion, but my best estimate is closer to 20. So
Folks,
far less.
none of this is financial advice, but what he just said is extremely, extremely important information if you're following this ecosystem. That's some exciting stuff for sure.
I'm just waiting for it because it's such a small market, in all honesty, that okay, so let's just say we see 2 to 5 million people come into the XRPL ecosystem on Ripple's impending victory here. Even if Ripple doesn't win, no financial asset has ever been declared a security after losing. So in the Howey test, the oranges weren't securities. After that, they're still oranges. And all of the preceding cases, there's like 8 that Deaton went through. And every single time the asset remains whatever it was. So XRP is a digital currency, always will be. Even if Ripple gets a $200 million fine, they'll wipe their butts with $100 bills and pay the SEC with all of them and not have any trouble whatsoever. Like, they have that kind of capital sitting around.
I like that analogy.
It's not even a criminal case. It's not a fraud case. It's not anything, right? So no matter what happens, Ripple wins as soon as the case closes. That's why they're keeping it open so long. But we see, say, 3 million-ish people come in. The ecosystem basically 10x's. With 50,000 in capital, the XOGE chart would do a few backflips. Well, 50,000 between 3 million people is basically a nickel or something. It's some minuscule amount. So the opportunity, that's why I already told, if you're a top 100 XRPL project right now, you're golden. You're golden. You're going to do great as soon as the population comes. And I'm bullish on a lot of the chains, though. I mean, like Algorand, I'm totally into that because Gary Gensler just got grilled by Congress. Apparently, he was working on the Hillary campaign, and he's the one who signed for that dossier. So we know that Gensler and Hillary are tight. They're buddy-buddy. So why is Hillary meeting with Stacey from Algorand, and then a month later, Gensler is saying that Algorand is a security vicariously, like third-party assault, when he talks about Coinbase and their lawsuit? So everybody in Algorand panics and black swans that market. Like, I'm so bullish on Algorand mooning too now, because that is straight up like a setup, the way that just played out. Like, they intentionally, and I think Stacey, I think Algorand, I think they know that they brought that market down just like XRP. Because you have Gensler and Hillary so tight. You have Hillary and Stacey from Algorand so tight. They're taking pictures together and meeting. Then all of a sudden, without saying it's Algorand, like directly to Algorand and like suing Algorand or something, no, they don't say anything to Algorand. They don't do anything to Algorand. They just tell Coinbase that Algorand is a security and they're suing Coinbase. So then people in Algorand panic and sell. It's a black swan. It's like, everything is pretty wild, but I'm bullish on it because who knows, man? It definitely seems super sus, and anytime things are sus, they just don't add up right. But, there's more to it, obviously. So
I like that you're not about the tribalism like some people are. We've talked about that in a few previous episodes too, and it's just not good for anybody when everything's all like, no, we're the best, no, we're the best, and then you kill each other over it. And I mean, metaphorically, of course, but come on.
Yeah, I
So
know. And well, with that, on that note, quickly, is just that we've always been fighting. Financial control is power over the people, and that's really what all this is about. These governments are like the United States. When we got what is it? First Republic, I think, is going up now in the States, and it's another massive bank. These dominoes are falling. They don't fall like a stack of dominoes at that speed usually, but you can see them already going. The money isn't there, and they know it. So it's them trying to maintain power into the new financial system. While they can move the last few pieces on the board, they're doing that. But what we're moving into, they may not be in control of. I'm doubling down on holding on to my everything I can in crypto. And it's not just crypto. I'm very practical as well, as far as like for everybody. It's like, guys, have 30 days food and water stored, have physical means, have yourself some gold or silver, have some stuff to barter with, be self-sufficient for Americans, Canadians, Filipinos, everywhere in the world. Everybody kind of needs to take a step back and realize that the global GDP has failed. The global economy is currently being crunched, and we as a whole need to say, okay, it's a good idea just to have some basic preparation for possible massive, economic turmoil, switches, Great Depression style stuff, troubles with logistics and shipping, and maybe you won't have some of the conveniences that you're used to for some for shorter time, hopefully a shorter time. But if you talk to any economics major around the planet from whatever country they're in right now, our country is failing, is what they're saying. It doesn't matter if you're talking to somebody who's talking about
yeah,
Chinese finances or European finances or American finances. Well, that means that we're going to have some major turmoil, and as these nations start, let's hope we don't get world war, because it's not the average people who want that.
no,
Like we,
absolutely
we,
not.
we don't want that. It's our children, and it's us who go and fight for most of the time other people's empires. And
Yep.
I don't want to get too off in a tangent on that, but most people don't want war. We're hoping that that doesn't happen
Yeah.
overall, but it usually follows economic hardship. So with those kinds of threats looming, and some people some people theorize that they would like to reduce the overall population. It's hard to say what the powers that be who get to pull the strings will actually try to pull off. So I think a general, um, have have some of your nation's currency in a form that isn't digital. Have your digital money actually digitized in wallets that you control, that other people
Yep.
can't take
Be
from you.
responsible. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't be on exchanges with your assets. Have wallets, and keep custody yourself. And why crypto is so important? Let's say you're in Russia, and your local currency, your government issued currency, completely loses all value, like it has in many nations in history. You can lean on your crypto assets to carry you, because those are supported by entities across the planet. Whereas you know your national currency isn't working, maybe you still have the ability to trade using crypto. So yeah, and then also having precious metals, because it's really hard for people to fake that and stuff like that, and that survives the EMPs and things like that if you do see the war forecast. So just a bunch of different strategies overall. I don't want anybody to suffer through events like Weimar Republic and the Great Depression and all these different things, but there's been a lot of turmoil, and never on this scale for the whole
Never. It's
planet.
scary
Never.
times. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's change pace here a bit. So we talked a little bit about the XRP lawsuit. I'm not going to ask you to speculate on price, but I do want to hear what your thoughts on essentially when the lawsuit's going to be over. Do you have any predictions on what date, or roughly maybe a month, that you think is going to be the end of this mess?
I'm so bad at this because I just look at it and go, okay, so how do we have and I'll just take to a case that a lot of people have heard about, not because I care any direction, but you look at a case like Kyle Rittenhouse case in America. You know, you've got this kid who went into a crazy situation, who killed some people or something to that effect, and it was a really big event. This is involves somebody dying and guns being fired and pandemonium and stuff like that. The entire trial, where there's severe injury for people and there's death and all of that, happens in a few months. Like these, and I'm going to be blunt. People who don't like hearing that, I'm sorry, but these people are assets. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They're all retarded or something, because this shit should have been wrapped up forever and a day ago. It should have never spanned this long. It's obviously being held up intentionally. And if you don't have a ruling at this point, it's because there's still other pieces that need to be moved on the geopolitical board of the larger picture for the powers that be. So as far as when they could literally magically, because the laws just don't seem to matter and nobody's ever held accountable, they could keep this going for 3 more years till 2025 or whatever,
That
2026.
worries
They
me.
can. Right. And here's the thing, even if they do conclude it this week, they can then go to civil court and have an immediate follow-up. We're talking ruling, civil court, same day, both come out. And it's just like everybody's be as bald as I am for pulling out their hair, because it's insanity, man. It's insanity. So I think that I don't have a prediction for that. However, I do have a prediction for what's going to happen with the ecosystem, in all the tokens. And I just want people to kind of think about it. And here's my thoughts on it is, if XRP starts to really moon up a lot of projects, a lot of tokens, a lot of assets out there, people, there is going to be a recession in asset from all of those items. Like if you think of an ocean, and Ripple XRP is the ocean, and all the islands are the projects. Before a tsunami occurs, all of the water is pulled away from that island, right? That's what happens when XRP starts to really take off, because people panic from those assets. But assets that have been around for a long time, did everything right, created foundations, different projects, deployed fairly, things like that. Good projects, top 100. That's why I told them all they're going to win, is because those charts, just like every other one, will reflect bad while that pullback is happening. But that tsunami is coming in, and we're going to have a few million more people in the ecosystem, and it's going to hammer those assets. There won't be enough of them. So you're
Not financial advice. Load your bags, folks.
Right. You see some pretty wild stuff. That's what we've all been waiting for. And I know Gary Gensler, with the clown nose on and everything, is doing everything he can to stop crypto. And it seems like getting beat up by XRP and Ripple and the community and everything wasn't enough for him. He had to go get his ass kicked by Congress. Then he had to go get his ass kicked on Twitter. And he had to go get his ass kicked, and now he's suing a bunch of different other things. And it's like, guy, you can't just go around getting beat up by everybody. But
Just stop. It's painful to watch.
It is. At some point, like they do a skit where somebody gets hit by a car and then he falls on a bed of spikes, and then somebody jumps on him, and it's just one event after another is kind of like the way I see it. The last and latest thing I hear, Hester Peirce, it was like today or that I heard about it, so it could have been today or yesterday, but Hester Peirce called out the SEC and basically said they're complete failures. They didn't protect any investors. They've done the exact opposite. And it's like Deaton's constantly railing on them. Hogan is, the whole XRP community. And you know what? Before long, as soon as Algorand, because Algorand's at 18 cents right now because of the bad news, I'm like 100% bullish on Algorand. I went and bought it. I'm like, okay, I looked at the macro start of Algorand until now. And I said, okay, we have never been this low. The lows paired up across. If you go look at coin market cap, low, low. And it's like, we're not going to go lower than this. So I went and bought Algorand because we're not going to go lower, in my opinion. I honestly believe that those Algorand people are going to learn from us XRP people, which is what I've already been going into their spaces and talking to them on Twitter about. I'm like, guys, you're going to learn the trench warfare of the XRP community now. And then I broke down some of the reasons why they have nothing to worry about. And yeah, I think Algorand is going to be a solid one to turn around. HBAR is awesome also. And everything's going to work out one way or another.
Everything's coming up, Millhouse.
Yeah, it's all good. It's just they're managing to hold us back. And I know everybody wants traditional finance and banks and all of that in there, but guys, it's not even real money. And I know it's not real money because they literally are vampires that live off of us. And their assets are they're big institutions, these giant skyscrapers, monolithic buildings. All that wealth comes from all of us working, the people who are producing in this world, and they're all collapsing. So just saying, crypto is the real assets. People hold the money.
Into the next one here. So, do you have a motto or phrase that you like to live by? Is there something that you use as your inspiration? Anything that you can share with others so we can get a glimpse inside your head?
Just in life, failing a lot. Failing a lot will teach you that you're gonna fail at everything that you ever do, no matter what. If you keep giving up, like the only time that you're ever gonna succeed at anything is either you've got this gift from God, some natural talent, and you're just amazing at it, and then it just comes easy to you, and you're having a good time. Then you're successful with that. But for everything else, which is the 99% of your life, you're going to fail. You're going to take a lot of emotional damage as life goes on from failing and trying and failing and trying. And for everybody who wants to succeed or wants to see something through, that's the only way. Like that's how you build things. It's like, okay, door slammed in my face again. What am I going to do tomorrow? And just keep going at it. Keep going at it and don't give up. Like some people thought for me that decentralizing XOGE was, uh, like me exiting or something. It's like, no, I wasn't paid anyway. I have my 5% of tokens, but like everybody else, I got my clones and I don't receive a paycheck, and neither do people in the community. The point of that was so that nobody could ever torture me and get keys out of me or destroy the asset. The point of that was to relieve the burden of a terrible team doing things that could destroy the asset. And I've seen that. And like I said, I don't want to throw shade at any project, but quite literally, the whole Safe Money team went at one another and broke apart and caused a massive amount of community trouble. I don't want any of that. I want people to be comfortable in what they have, enjoy it, and not have that looming over them, kind of a thing.
I like that. It's good advice. Okay, well, we got a few community questions here before we wrap this up, so let's dive into those. We have a multi-part question from Swanner. So, in just a few words, what do you think is the most significant issue society is currently facing?
Oh, well, I think honestly, and this is basically for everywhere on the planet. It's the government wants to be in control, and the best way to control people, dictators historically, the way that it works out is um, they don't want people working together. They don't want white people and black people working together. They don't want trans people and regular non-trans. They don't want all of that. And every single contentious point in a society becomes weaponized by a government that seeks a totalitarian state. And when they're doing it almost in lockstep across the whole planet, you end up with a state of a tremendous amount of infighting and then a bunch of crazy legislation, laws, and turmoil occurring because people who are busy fighting one another and worried about the the micros, they're not worried about the macros of what all is going on. So there goes all real debate. There goes all the real progress. I mean, you got people like Elon sitting there saying we keep making AI willy-nilly like we are, and it's going to end up being Terminator and Skynet destroying us. And meanwhile, we can't even have a discussion about it because uh, all the race, like directly intentional from media trying to push all of this stuff. And it doesn't matter anymore if you're on the right or on the left. A lot of people are waking up to the political sides, both of them. They still share an agenda to keep people from that. So I think people need to realize their average man they've got next to nothing too. They're all struggling. They'll get automobile working, unhappy, that kind of stuff. So they couldn't possibly be the cause of your troubles. Something much bigger than that that you're not supposed to look at must be the cause of your troubles because
Hey, look, a balloon in the sky.
yeah.
Let's move on to the next one here. What do you consider your greatest accomplishment?
Greatest accomplishments. It's a good question. I don't know as far as like what the premise of the question is. Would it be like
In
personal
life,
or in crypto?
in life in general, what do you consider to be your greatest accomplishment?
I would probably say being a good supportive member in my family, just taking care of the people I know, between friends and families, going to work, holding down a real job, providing for a household, helping, different people do things that they can't manage to do, and taking care of people like that for me is like if you can accomplish that, then you go to extra credit, which is the things like what I do with XOGE. So go to work, make sure everything for the house is taken care of, everybody's good, and then go to work and try to build a community that's better for people.
I like it. That's awesome. Last one from Swanner. How much Reaper do you own? Are you a Reaper holder?
Yeah, it's actually a requirement. You know what? I never look, and I'm not some kind of whale. I'm not a wealthy individual. Um, it is required to be a hard slotted project that, like, the founder or
That
somebody
makes
in that
sense.
project
Yeah, that makes
holds some of
sense.
it. I only hold 29,034 and estimate real quickly Reaper to XRP. That's worth about 1,500 XRP or 750 US dollars, right in that ballpark. So that's my Reaper holding, and it's mostly because I don't have a lot. I just don't. Like, I have 15,000 XRP that I've had since
I thought you were going
the
to say you had
20.
15 kids for a second, and I was like, holy
No,
crap.
no, I don't have any kids. But here's back to that life thing about being a good person. I'm an uncle. I'm an uncle of 5 kids. 5 kids that I've helped raise their whole lives. And though I don't have
That's
any of
awesome.
my own, I've always worked and I've always lived with that group, my family, and I pay the bills. So it's not like I'm just saying it. I mean it. So
It's awesome.
yeah.
Another question. This one's from Ruddy Ridiculous. I just wish Classy would develop a wallet that would allow all of the clones in one place instead of just having to download 100 other apps. So I guess it's more of a comment than a question there.
It's a good point, and I really think that would be sweet. The I'll note that the closest ones are like Decent, Atomic Wallet, MetaMask, but you got to understand that cryptocurrency right now is a fractured space of there is the Ethereum ecosystem, and a lot of these things are EVM chained into Ethereum, Harmony, and even XDC, and all of that. And then you have a whole nother set of assets that are considered financial assets, like your XRPs and algos. So they handle things a lot different.
Right. Well, before we finish off for today, is there anything you think we may have missed? Anything else you want to add or something that maybe I didn't catch?
Yeah, I just want to say I don't want to waste anyone's time. So I'm grateful that people were interested and came in and asked some questions and stuff. And Reaper and I and Schmeckles, a lot of other people, are we're all out there doing blockchain leadership oversight council and different stuff in the space. And right now, I would say it's probably been the hardest time this last year and a half. When October hits, I'll be at it. 2 years of the struggle where the whole ecosystem is basically under the SEC's thumb, and things have been hard. But at some point, no matter what, this does receive a relief. At some point, we do get these weights lifted off of us, and we just got to be positive and work our way through it.
I think we're well on the way. I want to give a special thank you to you, Classy, for taking the time to hang out and chat. It's been great. I want to thank you all for watching and spending some time with us today as well. Be sure to check out the other Reaper Hardslot interviews that we've done, along with the animated In the Chaosverse, as well as the animated Chaos Crypto News. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more killer crypto content, and share this video with at least one other person. For now, take care, be skeptical, and be smart out there. Chaos and Classy out.
Nice.